Have you ever wondered why a single people has been a constant target for thousands of years, even across centuries? Why has the same race been blamed time and again throughout history? This didn't start with Hitler, nor did it start with the Inquisition. It's part of a much older story, and frankly, you're not going to like this. Imagine a world where you can believe in any god you want, but you can't reject them all. It's impossible, but the Roman Empire was exactly like that. It was quite tolerant of different beliefs, but on one condition: you must be loyal to the emperor. You must practically regard him as divine. Now ask yourself this: if your faith tells you there is only one God and there is no other, what would you do? That's exactly what the Jews did. The Jews believed in one God, did not make idols, did not worship the emperor, and preserved their culture. For Rome, this was not merely a difference, it was a potential threat and a rebellion, because anything that did not conform to the majority, especially in a powerful empire, aroused suspicion. Eventually, this difference turned into oppression. Rebellions broke out, and the Bar Kokhba Revolt in particular was a major turning point. Jerusalem was razed to the ground, the Jews were exiled, and they were forced to scatter to the four corners of the world. And from that moment on, a notion took root: these people won't conform. This idea would endure and remain alive for centuries. Then a new religion emerged: Christianity. At first, they shared the same roots, but at some point they parted ways because Christians accepted Jesus as the Messiah, while Jews did not. And over time, this division turned into major tension and conflict. Think about it. Why would two faiths with the same roots become enemies? Over time, a dangerous idea emerged: we have come, you are finished. In other words, Christianity had replaced Judaism. This notion took deeper root, and Jews were portrayed as a people who rejected the Messiah, or even killed him. This accusation became one of the cornerstones of hatred for centuries. When the Crusades began in 1096, many people attacked Jews in Europe before even setting out for Jerusalem, because the real enemy was far away, but the Jews were close by and defenseless. Let's be honest. Why do people so often choose the easiest target? Things grew even darker in the Middle Ages. In 1144, the death of a child in England was blamed on the Jews. There was no evidence, but people wanted to believe it. Thus, the blood libel emerged, a completely fabricated story about Jews using children in rituals, but its impact was very real. Here lies a critical question: why do people so easily believe in things without evidence? Economic pressures also came into play during this period. Christians were forbidden from charging interest, yet trade continued. Jews filled this void because they were already barred from other occupations. But eventually, this too turned against them. Labels like money grabber and greedy began to emerge. So first they were ostracized, then their very way of life was blamed. In the 14th century, the Black Death ravaged Europe. People didn't know why they were dying, and the same thing happened again. A scapegoat was sought. The Jews were blamed. They poisoned the wells, it was said. Thousands of people were burned at the stake, and entire communities were wiped out. So why do you think people lose their reason when they're afraid? By the 20th century, hatred had taken on a new form. It was no longer just about religion. This time, science entered the picture. So-called scientific theories defined Jews as a distinct race. They were labeled as inferior, dangerous, and incompatible. Does this sound familiar to you? In 1894, a French officer, Alfred Dreyfus, was accused of treason without any evidence. The sole reason was that he was Jewish. He was later proven innocent, but society's perspective had already been revealed. And then history reached its darkest point. Hitler took this existing hatred and turned it into a system. Through laws, propaganda, and education, slowly but surely, Jews were ostracized from society, their rights stripped away, and they were confined to ghettos. And eventually, the Holocaust occurred. Over 6 million people were killed simply because of who they were. Now, I'm asking you the most important question. Do you think this is truly over? Because the truth is, hatred doesn't disappear, it just changes form. Sometimes it's a joke, sometimes a comment, sometimes it seems like just an idea, but the core remains the same: blaming a group. History doesn't repeat itself exactly, but events do. Exclusion, blame, silence, and then disaster. That's why we must remember, not just to know the past, but to avoid repeating the same mistakes. My goal isn't to exonerate the Jews, but simply to make you think, does all of this really make sense? Now I'll leave it up to you. Why do you think people still fear what's different? I look forward to reading your answers in the comments. Thank you for watching. See you in the next videos. Goodbye.